Some of the most powerful voices in the pro-life movement today are former abortionists, those abortionists who've experienced a conversion, accepted that abortion is violence and that it's gravely wrong, and then went on to courageously share their story. Witnessing the accounts of former abortionists turned pro-life advocates is inspirational and helpful for pro-lifers, but it's also an invaluable testimony for aspiring med students and those currently working within the abortion industry themselves.
Abortions may be regulated, but not prohibited by state law.
There is no constitutional right to an abortion in this country anymore as of today.
Some of you may know my good friend, Dr. John Bruchalski, who's joined me on Explicitly Pro-Life before and has honored us by speaking at Students for Life and Med Students for Life events throughout the years. But today I wanted Dr. B to come on and give us a glimpse into his brand new book, To Patients, My Conversion from Abortion to Life-Affirming Care. Dr. Bruchalski earned his medical degree from the University of South Alabama College of Medicine in 1987. He completed his OB/GYN residency at Eastern Virginia Medical Center and the Jones Institute for Reproductive Medicine in Norfolk, Virginia in 1991. He received board certification in 1993, and he's the founder and the president of Divine Mercy Care and the founder of Tepeyac OB/GYN in Fairfax, Virginia. Dr. B, thanks so much for coming on today. I'm really honored to talk to you about your new book.
Oh, Kristen, it's good to be with you, and thank you for this opportunity.
Well, it's been fun because you and I were both speaking at Benedictine back in the fall, and I was lazy. I guess I hadn't looked at the full agenda, so I had no idea you were going to be there. It was such a pleasant surprise when I got a text message from Will, one of your team members at Divine Mercy, saying that you guys were waiting for me in the lobby. It was so great to see you.
Kristen, it was the same way, and our lives seem to have been wound together over these last 20 years, I guess, and it's been a real blessing.
It is such an honor to have someone like you in our movement, to have your kind of conversion story, and then their founding of Tepeyac, which when I lived in the DC area, was a patient of, and I still miss today. But I think that's really inspired a whole generation of pro-life OBGYNs and docs to, think differently and re-envision and say, how can we do better? But I want to get to today kind of your book and why I think folks should hopefully run out, go to Amazon or wherever you get your books and purchase a copy of To Patients. Because I think this is a really important book for right now. I guess maybe you tell me in your own words why 5 months or 6 months after the reversal of Roe versus Wade, why do you feel like this book is so critical to this discussion we're having right now, or discussions so many are having online right now?
Well, Kristen, there is a whole approach to this issue that I really discovered by being with you at Students for Life. What seemed to work on these campuses more than data, more than facts, was just an experiential talking about a change of heart. It stops people in their tracks long enough, especially a younger generation that is very impatient, to obtain a space and time where you can talk about issues at another level, whether they're for you or against you. This experience of my change of heart, I learned by collaborating with you and Students for Life. It's funny that this book took about 4+ years to write because of timing and being a full-time doctor and being a full-time, not activist, but somebody who really wants to promote the pro-life message. And of course, I saw it as a labor of sorts, that since I'm an OBGYN. And, even though I thought it was delayed, lo and behold, it was almost at a perfect time. And this book, To Patients, is medical because it focuses on the nature of how we practice or should practice OBGYN. It's also a story about seeing truth and reality from a scientific, from a relational, and actually from a spiritual background. It's all the above, and it's the story of my patients, because I learned so much from my female patients. And so I think there's a little bit for everyone in this book right now. And transformation of hearts, Kristen, where abortion becomes unwanted, really happens relationally. And I really think that medical students, medical doctors, future and present physicians and providers, we have a much deeper role to play. And I think we should be examining ourselves to say, how have I looked at this issue in the past? How do I look at this issue now? And how can I make a difference? And I think this book can help people do that.
I think for me, it's so important, thinking about this book and the timing of the release and this moment we're in now, because when we looked at, the polling data after the November midterms, abortion was number 2 on a lot of folks' minds, or if you voted Democrat, it might have been number 1. And when we're out, and especially when I've been out on campuses this school year, abortion is being brought to the forefront, and it's being discussed, which we always love in the pro-life movement. That we want to see abortion talked about because evil only thrives in darkness. But what the conversation that we've seen online, and many of you who've been debating abortion with family and friends since reversal of Roe have certainly had these conversations. It's a lot of fear mongering that we're seeing happen, and it's related to, well, you pro-lifers, you want these extreme laws that are going to ensure women who've have life-threatening pregnancies are going to die, or women who have miscarriages are gonna die of sepsis because they're not going to be able to get the D&C they need to remove the dead child and the pregnancy tissue from them. And that is, obviously false. There's no pro-life law in America that's been introduced this way, but it's a conversation for the docs that, you and your friends at Applog need to be speaking into, saying, look, we're pro-life physicians. We practice medicine where we treat 2 patients, and this is how we do it.
Right. You're spot on. And I think your experience has been so good, pushing yourself, getting out there, speaking, truth to anger. I've really realized that this summer of rage is really about post-traumatic stress. I really believe that this anger and bitterness and venom and fear has captured. We've had 50 years of this in medicine, Kristen, and you have seen this firsthand on the campuses. And it's really about if we don't have abortion, you're going to be killing women. And that simple message has been driven over and over and over into our conscience, into our culture. And I really believe that it's been the silence of the physicians not speaking up about this. And so we've been focused at Divine Mercy Care, not just in the conversion, but in the response to these incredible allegations of life of the mother and miscarriages and ectopics are not going to be allowed. And I'm really encouraging those across the country, not just to speak up in political issues, but to speak up in op-eds and to their patients, because we really have to combat this 50 years of fear. And I think you have your finger right on the pulse.
Yeah, I mean it's been I think very illuminating. I mean, we shouldn't be surprised that an abortion industry that preys upon women, that tells women that they aren't capable of choosing both. We shouldn't be surprised that they also lie, just flat out lie about what the intentions of the pro-life movement are, about what will happen and what should happen to women who experience life-threatening situations while pregnant. But I think it's I guess maybe it's a shock that a lot of pro-lifers needed to understand that we may have intellectually said, oh, we shouldn't be surprised that they're lying, but to see it happen before our eyes and to see at which the veracity and the speed at which these lies have been propagated online, they've spread. I have never in 16 years have had to keep saying elective or direct abortion so many times have I had to say now. When I'm on campuses where I'm like, no, when we talk about abortion, we're talking about the intentional ending of a human life. And there, I'm like, okay, let me qualify that and let me add a word from it, direct or elective. And then, that takes away all of your yelling at me instantly. And I think I worry about having to add an additional term in front of the word abortion, because I feel like when you have to start redefining your terms or qualifying your terms, you probably have lost the debate. And so I don't want to do that. They're trying to conscript all of these women and family members who've suffered natural miscarriages into their movement. Said, oh, well, you had a natural miscarriage. You had to have a DNC to remove your deceased child. Therefore, you've had an abortion. You're part of our movement, which is absolutely false.
That's absolutely, and what you've just said is absolutely true. And it's resonating in the hearts of our patients. Our patient, this is not just an academic, you're looking at it from the podium and the microphone in front of a college audience, in front of a med school audience. Well, I see this most of the time, as the rest of us OBGYNs do, in our exam rooms, in the intimacy of one-on-one conversation with a patient who's in pain and suffering. And just like, even bringing up the word abortion, it's an elective abortion, Kristen, and you absolutely need to use that word because they're continuing to just fungible or make, spread this word out into basic medical care. And they're trying to legitimize something that is from the shadows and that's illegitimate, is that abortion is essential health care. It's not. It never has been. It's always been in the borderland. It's always been in the dark. They won't even say the word abortion. So when you say it, and I think using the word direct or elective can help, because what I'm seeing now from ACOG is that they are manipulating language where the heart doesn't start beating until 20 weeks now, when there's valves and the heart looks like our heart. Are you kidding me? You tell a mother at 5 to 6 weeks when she sees the flicker on the ultrasound or the heartbeat on the ultrasound or hears it, that that's not her child, that her child is not alive. We've bastardized in medicine miscarriage, abortion, ectopic, all this language that is becoming so unreasonable and so cloudy. We have to stand up for truth as well as language and continue to say the word elective abortion and provide folks with the information wherever we are, whether you're on the college campus, whether you're in the classroom, whether you're in the hospital, or whether you're in a patient's office. Because I really think physicians can do a great deal of help by talking to patients through their misery and their shame and their anger, and to do it in such a way that brings them back to health.
I'm worried about the doctors, where I've been hearing stories online of girls who are saying their doctors have told them, now if you're starting to have a miscarriage, this could be a problem because I may not be able to do what I need to do. Which so these are, to me, it sounds like these are these activist OBGYNs that sadly I think are hoping women die or women get close to death, and because they're going to refuse medicine, they're going to refuse life-saving care in order to make a political point.
Think about what they've done throughout the history of Roe. Whether it was Norma McCorvey, it was all staged. I remember just recently, right after Dobbs, the 10-year-old rape victim. It was all staged. It was all manipulated for political purposes. And what I enjoy talking to you about is, back in the day when I was traveling with Students for Life, it was, if abortion is so good, why don't more of us do it? That was a question that really got them thinking. But now, abortion is a political solution. It is not medicine. It has never been medicine. It has never been part of mainstream healthy medicine, good medicine, caring, healing, hoping, providing solutions. Whenever you care for a patient, Kristen, the baby is always cared for. That's how you care for two patients. We have so much better science today, and yet you're onto something here. The lies, they have nothing else to go on except the lies, and we have to keep refuting them over and over and over again. And I think our time is now, and I do think that we're in the arena of not only language being disrupted, but our culture being disrupted and lies being spread in abortion work and care, and the medical approach. Can you imagine saying, I have to kill your baby in order to save your life? You never pit mom against her baby as good medicine. And I believe places like Tepeyac OBGYN and Morning Star and so many good Bella, so many good places across the country who care for both patients. We really have to, right now is our time to speak up and to just help educate our patients, our friends, our peers, and to continually push back. Because I also am trying to find, where's the Achilles heel today? What can we do as physicians to really collaborate, cooperate, and bring the movement together? I love the fact that you thought about your language to the point of adding one word. Kristen, that's the genius of what Students for Life. I know you do such good political work, but the people that you've helped rise up on campuses, those have been some of the best stimulated conversations I've ever had in my life, because they're the future. They see things from a new, fresh perspective. And I believe that giving them the tools like you do, we can begin to find the kind of the chinks in Goliath's armor, because we truly are that David, that Judith from Scripture. So no, I'm grateful for this opportunity, but I really pray that this podcast instills and draws out from your audience, what are the questions are we hearing and what has worked to get them to rethink, because it's going to help me in my in our medical practice. So I'm grateful for this opportunity.
And this is why I love having conversations with you. It's so sad that, everyone is one in a million, but you're so rare, when we look at OBGYNs across our country. And to see so many young women going to their doctor who they trust, who also is complicit in the fear mongering of the abortion industry. It's heartbreaking to see that, and then having to tell a woman, maybe you should get a new doctor if your doctor wants to be an abortion activist and doesn't actually want to give you the care you deserve. How can you, I'm trying to think of how to best use this time, because there's a lot of questions I personally have for you, but for those who are tuning in, which is why we do the podcast, it's not just Kristen having fascinating conversations, although sometimes I feel like I might get more out of these podcasts than my guests do. But I'm trying to think of, but why I've got you at this special moment, maybe you should help us walk through some of these circumstances that women do face that are life-threatening circumstances, and the care that she would need, and how do we as pro-lifers, I guess, one, can you tell us what are those medical circumstances that she may face that would put her life at risk while pregnant? And then what's the approach that a pro-life physician, that any physician really should be taking to ensure that either both patients survive, or at the bare minimum, one patient survives, without going in and intentionally ending the life of another patient?
So, and I'm grateful for that, because that seems to be where the focus of this Divine Mercy Care is going. I got sick about a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, with an autoimmune disease, and I'm not able to see patients anymore. But it helped me come out of the practice where I was seeing patients to Divine Mercy, where we are, one of our aims is to help the Underground Railroad continue in college and medical students, residents, and peers. Now, this issue of why do you have to end the life of the fetus, of the baby, in order to save the life of the mom seems to be everywhere one of the deepest fears. Now, we all know that they don't even quantify that number from Guttmacher. It's so low. It's so low that number is like 0.0006%. That's how low these instances are. That's the first truth. The second truth is, recently I spoke with Dr. Byron Calhoun, a high-risk doctor from West Virginia. And he reassured me that there is never an indication to end the life of the fetus in order to save the mom, the direct abortion, as you would say. Now, we face many illnesses in pregnancy, such as lupus, diabetes, hypertension, seizures, kidney disease, lung disease, cancer. And what happens is that it's a process of caring for two patients, meaning you make sure you focus your attention on the life of the mother. Now, most of the time, as soon as the diagnosis is made, long before any damage is done to the mother, many doctors, and I did it in my past, where I would say, this could really lead to kidney failure. We need to end the pregnancy now so you don't have to do that. One of my first patients was a long-term diabetic. One of the interesting things in medicine is that technology and progress actually improve the life of humanity usually. And so diabetes, back at the turn of the century of, say, 1900, was almost a death sentence for moms and babies. A lot of stillbirth. Well, by the 1990s, when I was being trained, we could control blood sugar and we could care for women's whole bodies. We could care for their eyes from the diabetic retinopathy. We could care for their kidneys with the damage done there. And so initially, there's this fear mongering that the doctor provides to the patient. What life affirming doctors do is say, we have a challenge here, and we're going to walk you as far along as we can within medical reason. We've been doing this before Roe, during Roe, after Roe, with Dobbs, and we're going to care for you. We're going to monitor you closely. We're going to follow your kidney function, your breathing, your eyes. And we're going to get both of you as far as possible. We're going to treat both you and your child with respect and dignity as a patient. It's what we do in medicine. It's the reason why it's so shocking that we hear eugenics now in Canada, euthanasia. They're now euthanizing children. Well, why is that? Well, because their life is being projected as having no meaning or unbearable suffering long before those medical realities come into place. When we now have heart disease, we can monitor the cardiac function of moms and get them to special clinics to continue that care. And there are high-risk doctors out there who have the experience of caring for those sick moms, whether it's their heart, their kidneys, what have you. And so when you care for both patients, you get them as far along as possible. And then when you must, you deliver the child. And you deliver the child either vaginally or through C-section. You never have to directly kill the child. In residency, Kristen, we had a Blue Betty, a woman coming in with pulmonary hypertension to the Catholic hospital. She was already blue. She had not any prenatal care. And because the Catholic hospital would not abort her immediately, we took her to the big hospital downtown, secular, and we aborted her. And both she and her baby died. Now, this was an episode in my training, but it went to show me that we didn't really care about her. We immediately went to, we got to kill the baby in order to keep her alive. No, we needed to care for her first, bring her along to health, get her to a stable place before we thought about delivering the child. Now, in medicine, Kristen, there are times when you have to deliver the baby very early, say with an infection or a severe hemorrhage. Well, as life-affirming doctors, you always end the disease. You never get rid of the patient with the disease. And even though you must deliver and empty the uterus early, the intention is never the direct ending of that child's life. And the best part about that, or a positive side of that, is that when you talk to the mother, she knows you did your utmost for both patients. It's not natural for mothers, except in the most radical cases. Oh, kill my baby to save my life. That is a very rare place, a very rare person. And so through the principle of double effect, which is a philosophical term, you can care for both, and sometimes you have to deliver early, but you never have to intend the direct killing of the child in order to save the mother. Because if you do save the mother and she has to live with that burden, I can tell you that in the cases that I've seen, that is almost an unbearable life to live.
That's absolutely true. I mean, you've saved her life, but you may have also ended her life at the same point in time. Especially when you look at the suicide rates. Yeah. What do you think about, I hear this with these late term abortions. No one ever has late term abortions, which we know is false even though we don't have a national abortion reporting law, which we should. We know that there are late term abortions happening. But the question I always walk through students is there a medical circumstance, Dr. B, where a woman's experiencing hypertension or something, that one of those lists that you mentioned, cancer, and where it's safer to inject the child with digoxin, cause a cardiac arrest, and then wait 2 to 3 days to deliver that baby? Because my thought is, if she's dying and she can no longer remain pregnant, she can no longer continue to gestate another human being within her, why would you wait 2 or 3 days?
Kristen, yeah, that scenario that you just described is medically malpractice. It's medical malpractice. Forget the abortion, but we deliver women every day in our hospitals across this country, in our area of Northern Virginia, who have high blood pressure, who have seized, who are hemorrhaging. And we are there to save the life of both mom and her baby. Doing a cesarean section emergently is leaves is a is a is a natural side effect of our profession of OBGYN. It's one of those times where the lives are on the line, the incisions must be made, the bleeding must be stopped, the physiology of mom and her baby must be monitored. It is always better to save the life of both. And it's a farce to think that we have to perform a late term abortion on a child and a mom and on a pair that would somehow save to provide her with a healthy approach to her medical sick condition. It's absurd to me. I really believe that most of those late abortions that I've seen are due to a young lady who just does not tell people about her pregnancy until she's in the second and third trimester. And that's why they go. Many hospitals deliver sick children now. They don't provide the digoxin. It's just that the child is ill. And in order to prevent the child from suffering a kind of a terrible bastardization of the word mercy, they just deliver that child early. The mother's not at risk. They're just delivering a sick child early so it dies. And that's been the real challenge of what we see inside the hospital. And so, no, it's what the question that you posed is absolutely absurd, medically absurd, that you would take that long when the life of the mother is in such a critical state. And I can tell you, doctors across the country help deliver sick children from their mother, or sick, deliver moms who are in extremis, we call it, quickly with cesarean sections. We do it every day at hospitals just because, we don't live in the Garden of Eden, and things happen. Sometimes things happen through our own fault, like taking drugs like cocaine, causing an abruption where the placenta blows off the side of the uterus. Sometimes it's nothing that we've done. We develop a blood clot, and the mom is having a hard time getting along, and we need to deliver the baby so she can get better care. Now, we do that every day now without any worry about being sued. That's part of good health care.
Mm. That's Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's so important for us to have that level of perspective. What do you say? And I know the answer, but I want you to talk about it, for these children who are diagnosed sick in utero, who their parents have been told your child is missing part of their brain, or their heart hasn't developed fully. What is the compassionate, loving response that a physician, that our society, that medicine should be offering these parents?
So right now, the standard of care is that as soon as you diagnose it, whether it's early with the blood tests looking for genetic anomalies, like trisomies 18 and 13 and 21. Um, those are found early on in the pregnancy, and sometimes we find problems on ultrasounds 1/3 of the way, 16 weeks, 20 weeks. Well, right now, once we find this, many physicians present this case to patients, just like you said, that this child's going to suffer, and this child is going to suffer inordinately. It's going to cost you an incredible amount of money. There is an option where we can abort or deliver the baby early. And we begin to not talk about the baby, we begin to talk about the disease. We put a wedge between mom and her unborn child, period. That's what happens in so many cases. Well, as a life-affirming doctor, you begin to bond with mom and the reality, because this is usually a child that is welcomed, wanted, and it's part of their family already. And you say how sorry you are and that how you're going to walk with them through this. Because the option of what we would say when the child is going to live only a few moments or breaths or hours or days after the birth, when you clamp the umbilical cord, one of the best options that we have today is something called perinatal hospice, where you utilize the mom's womb, her uterus, as a hospice, as a place of comfort and compassion. Kristen, good moms want to spend time with their sick babies. They don't want to shorten that time. And so you begin to care for mom and her child, and you see how far along they can get so they can spend time together. And remember, children don't suffer in the womb only when they're being murdered through abortion. That's when babies suffer. When this child is growing attached to the placenta through an umbilical cord to the mother's heartbeat, it has no idea how sick it is, because the physiology is being helped out by the mother. The baby's not gasping for air. And you can actually maximize your time with a sick child so you can process, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I forgive you, I'm sorry, and goodbye, and I love you. Those 5 questions are how we have to say goodbye to any other member of our family or somebody who's close to us. And so I wanted to say that it gives the mom time to, I've got my dog here. I've got it. It gives the mom time to say goodbye to her child, and it maximizes the time. So on the delivery, at the delivery, the family can appreciate and celebrate the short life and walk through the pain and the angst and the anxiety, but to do it in a way that is healthy. I have just one story on that area that really goes to what you said. I had cancer many years ago, and one of the abortionists at the hospital asked to help me out and deliver my patients. One night, he delivered a baby without a skull, and he was so irate that he had to deliver this baby at 38 weeks. The family was all around. They were celebrating the birth. He came into my room on chemotherapy and yelled at me using all sorts of rough language. How dare you? I'll never help you again. I delivered a monster. Well, 6 years later, he comes in bringing me a peace offering of a picture of a very famous European city. And he sits down and he says, John, do you remember when I came into your hospital room? He says, I want you to know that I'm a really good doctor. Even though I've done abortions, I've always wanted what was best for my patients. John, there was more love in that room with those children and that family on that baby that I called a monster, more so than any other patient I've ever delivered in my practice. He says, that night, John, I stopped doing abortions. I haven't told anybody this, but it's taken me this long to come back to you and tell you thank you for letting me deliver Maria. And we have no idea, but this perinatal hospice approach can heal physicians who have been hardened by abortion. It absolutely can help heal moms who've been on the fence. It also helps heals dads. I've seen several fathers who threaten to sue me because of the difficulty of waiting. When they get a chance to hold their child, even though it's for only a few moments, Kristen, it transforms their heart. And this is the power of what life-affirming medicine does when you think about caring for two patients rather than I'm just going to kill one in order to save the other. The ripple effects are vast for both approaches.
I hope you got to tell Maria's parents that story at some point. Um, yeah, because I mean, I think you probably, as a parent, ask yourself these questions of, what did all of that pain do, or what was the point of that child who was born with so many issues and so many troubles. And that one story sums it all up, of the witness that we lead and the witness that we leave on this earth, and the witness that she gave in those brief moments that she was born.
Kristen, Students for Life, because of their incredible outreach to so many tens, hundreds of thousands of people that you've reached, you are absolutely building a foundation that is one day going to be filled with so much love in communities across the country and across the world that mothers are going to be affected, just like you said, whether it's in that extreme situation or whether it's just the surprise pregnancy from a divorce going bad, or the last time you had intimacy with whomever. I really believe that yes, the immediate impact can be political and can be educational, but because I deal with pained hearts and these soul ties that we through the sexual revolution and through all the things we've done in our lives that we've been told, oh, it's good, reproductive health is good, yeah, this is great. I've seen it through the medical lens. You've seen it through the family and educational lens. But it's really this transformation of hearts, one at a time, where culture has changed. And I just believe that Divine Mercy Care can come alongside many of these larger organizations, whether it's Students for Life, the American Association of Pro-Life OBGYNs, Catholic Medical Association, Christian Medical and Dental, even other secular organizations. I believe now is the time to say the word abortion. Now is the time to help to confront, even if it's enshrined in freaking constitutions in some states across this. Can you imagine where we've had so many wins in state legislatures? We've also had some challenges. And yet, wherever you live, it's now our time to stand up because it matters. It's actually going to cost. And I really appreciate, once again, this opportunity. You have always stimulated in so many of us, how can we do this better? And I can tell you, perinatal hospice was a part of that. Inspiring, doctors like myself to enter OBGYN when a profession is so caught up in the lie that abortion is essential health care and that hearts don't really beat until 20 weeks and all the other lies that you can't treat miscarriage. We down deep inside know this. And yet now's the time we have to really find ways to flesh this out. And I pray, I think so highly of you all. and I pray abundance. And I know that our collaboration in the past and now presently, even with this new book that I have, Two Patients, I know it can make a difference today, because that's what we were made for, was today.
That's right. Where can folks get to Patients? I think everyone after listening to this podcast is going to say, I have to read Dr. B's book now.
Well, I mean, I hope so, and I hope they can share it with their friends, but twopatients.com is a site, but Ignatius.com is a good site to go to. Amazon and any other place they get their books, it's available. That's the quickest way. Anybody out there who's really interested in medicine, definitely get to divinemercycare.org. That's one word, divinemercycare.org. And it's just that we have a lot of experience with the practical clinical side. We can come alongside and we can show you where to go to get ethics, or on either side, because we want to be a bridge or a glue to all the different good groups out there. It's huge, Kristen. I mean, there's so many people out there doing good work in all the organizations. And I don't want to add another organization. This is literally kind of a mentoring, and just by leading by example. This was our experience. This is how we've done it for 30 years. And this is really where I'm putting my energies right now, is to just support and build up Students for Life and all the other groups out there that are on the front line. Because I have a lot of experience in this movement from the beginning, seeing the growth of Students for Life as an example, and the love of a mother and woman and director. I really, like I said, I can't tell people how much I appreciate what you've done.
Well, thank you, Dr. B, for coming on. Thank you for all the beautiful comments, which I did not tell you to say. And makes me feel uncomfortable. But I didn't want to taint the beginning of the interview by calling you my hero. But now I can tell everybody who's listening in, this is why I call Dr. Bruchalski one of my personal heroes. And I think after listening to this podcast, you will agree and want to adopt him as one of your personal heroes as well. The stories he tells about himself, his life, his radical conversion, the patients he's cared for and loved throughout his practice. This is the book you should not miss, and this is one you should not forget to read. So make sure you go and get Two Patients ASAP and start reading Dr. B's story of his life and his practice, and share it. Maybe buy 2 copies and give one to a doctor in your life. I wish for you that you all find a Dr. B, a physician in your life who cares about his patients as much as Dr. John Bruchalski does. Thank you all for tuning in this week, and thanks, Dr. B, for joining us.